Hi Maranatha, welcome to another Monday in Praying Through the Psalms, and you are joining me today again outside, but you are joining me underneath one of the largest elm trees we have here on our property. And the thing that I love about this elm tree is it's at the first tree every spring to get green. And not only is it green, but it is a vibrant, like almost like a lime green every year. It has to, in my mind, these roots have got to be tapped into some water vein down deep, because every year, it is the first and the most vibrant of all trees, elm trees. And elm trees are usually kind of ugly, but this one is absolutely my favorite. And when I'm underneath this elm tree, I can't help but think of Nathaniel when he was underneath that fig tree. And we looked at this in John 1 this last Sunday, that when Nathaniel was underneath the fig tree, Jesus saw him. And then when Jesus was with Nathaniel in person, he said, when you were underneath that fig tree, I saw you. And at that moment, Nathaniel knew that Jesus was someone extra special. He was the Messiah. In fact, he said, my Lord and my King. He says, you are the King of Israel. And so today, as we look and pray through the Psalms, I couldn't help notice in Psalm 27, because today's April 27th, and 27, 57, 87, 117, and 147, I couldn't get past Psalm 27. In fact, the very first verse in Psalm 27 is, the Lord is my light and my salvation, in whom shall I fear? The Lord is my light and my salvation. Now, we saw in John chapter 1, Jesus was the Word was with God, the Word was with God, He was with God in the beginning. And it talks about Jesus was the light of men. He was the one that provided salvation. Now, interesting enough, and this is what I love about how God uses His Word, is Psalm 27, the Lord is my light, is the only time in the Old Testament where it describes God being light. Now, there are other parts of the Old Testament where it ascribes light to God, but this is the only time in the Old Testament where it talks about God being light, until, you guessed it, John chapter 1. And so here we have just an overlapping of Scripture to say that God is light. He is the one that shows us reality. This is why, and we looked at this on Sunday, this is why we know when we are a disciple of Jesus that we follow Him. He is our greatest need. We realize that He is the one who knows us intimately, right? And we know that He is the one in which we should follow His teachings, because His teachings will never lead us astray. This is what I love. I can't wait to look more and more into the book of John, is because as we see Jesus going throughout His earthly ministry, He constantly, and there's a lot going on outside, so I'm going to let these guys go by in a little bit. That may or may not be Stephen driving by me, hard-working man that he is. And so I'm going to let him go by. Everybody wave to Stephen. Bye, Stephen. But I love the fact that Scripture constantly assures us that we can trust the teaching, not just the teachings of Scripture, but we can trust Jesus to never lead us astray. He is the one who taps into and acknowledges our deepest longings. And so, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? So whenever you are under not just your elm tree, but whenever you are under your fig tree, as John 1 says, and you are wondering if God sees you, please know that God sees you. He does. He knows you, and He hasn't left you. And He is your light and your salvation. And whom shall we fear? So be encouraged today, and again, praying through the Psalms, that God knows you, He sees you, you can trust Him. I love how, again, in John, where whenever someone meets Jesus, their first reaction is to go to others and say, come and see. Don't take my word for it, but come and see. This guy is who He says he is. He just has an ability to speak truth into my life that nobody else can. And that's the glory of the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. So keep praying through the Psalms, Maranatha, and we will see you on Wednesday.